Welcome back to another edition of the Disney Dish podcast with Jim Hill. It's me, Len Testa, and this is our show for the week of Schmurz Day, August 17th, 2020. On the show today, news from the parks, and we read a bunch of new surveys from Disney and Universal. In our main segment, Jim talks about how Disney's Animal Kingdom has struggled over the past 22 years to come up with some sort of a nighttime entertainment program for that theme park that actually appeals to guests. Let's get started by bringing in the man who says that you can't buy hot pockets. You can only buy cold pockets, to which you add the heat yourself. It's Mr. Jim Hill. Jim, how's it going?
Given the amount of time you spent walking around Orlando's blazingly hot theme parks lately, I'm kind of surprised you just don't shove a hot pocket in your pocket just to have.
Actually, I keep them in my socks because my feet are closer to the ground and the heat radiating from the concrete cooks them in no time.
That opens a whole new series of questions. And remind me never to. Jim, would you like a hot pocket?
I would not.
I'm good.
Thank you. I would not.
I'm good.
We had, my sister Christina and I were walking around Epcot yesterday, and the heat index temperature is no breeze yesterday. The heat index temperature was 107. And for kicks, we tried to measure the heat of the pavement, where it turns sort of different colors in Epcot. And the closest we could get on our thermometer was, it only goes up to 120 degrees. But it was 120 degrees in the sun. And that's as high as the thermometer went.
This is why the Leave of Legacy, got pulled out of the front of the park. The number of people, I'm just going to lean against this set of, what could go wrong? So
Exactly. All right, Jim, let's do a shout out to subscribers over at disneydish.bandcamp.com. Jim, I've lost count of how many weeks in a row we've had a record number of Bandcamp subscribers. Thank you all very, very much. I hope you enjoyed the Splash Mountain ride in stereo and the Nature Trails walkthroughs at Animal Kingdom. We've got some Epcot walkarounds coming up. And thanks to new subscribers, P.A. Johnson, Ian C. with the bicycles, and Penny B. 2003. And longtime subscribers, Mike Bo 523, D. Barnes, and NJ Family Dad. Jim, these folks are the Chevrolet employees whose job is to look for future car ideas based on the designs that guests come up with in Epcot's Test Track Pavilion. Apparently, Penny caused quite the commotion when she pulled up in her kids' after-school pickup line in a royal blue car with solar panels, 6 wheels, and rocket engines on the trunk. But she also got 3 orders for the car, which should be delivered in 2022, and that's how these things work, Jim. True story.
any information on the cup holder or armrest situation?
I didn't think to ask.
Nancy tells a story about a family friend. They'd go to buy a car, and that they'd have all the features they want, and they'd climb inside, and they'd sit, and if their arms touched while they were in the
too small. Yeah, forget it.
Too small. It's like, nope, I need a different car. It's like, but it's everything. It's like, no, our elbows touch. We need a bigger,
But you're married.
That's the reason, right? It's
Exactly.
like, I need some space. So.
It's true. Yeah, there's certain things that you have to have in a car. There's certain things that you don't. The cup holders for me are kind of make or break. Mm-hmm. But anyway, all right, Jim. Let's do the news. The big news as of yesterday was that Disney and the Actors Equity Union have signed a memorandum of understanding about how the equity actors will return to work in the Disney theme parks. And one of the key provisions is free COVID-19 testing, which will be run by the state of Florida over near Disney's main gate offices by Animal Kingdom, and it's also open to the public, I hear, and it's free. Results take 3 to 5 business days to arrive. So, Jim, what kind of timeline are we looking at now for this agreement to be finalized and then for shows to start running again in the parks?
First of all, I'm just glad that this logjam has finally been removed. Because face it, that's, so much of the Disney theme park experience keys off of shows like this and performers like this. But they'd like to have this up and running within 2 weeks, 3 weeks of the absolute outside. Especially once we get past Labor Day. Mm-hmm. We've seen Disney creep in operating hours heading into the fall a little bit.
Right.
We need that much more entertainment to get people to come into the parks. And so it's crucial to get these shows back up and running and these performers in the streets. So at the absolute outside, supposedly, after Labor Day, it's up and running and the performers are back in the park and we go.
Yeah, I think parks, basically every park but the Magic Kingdom, really needs the equity actors to make a complete day
Oh, yeah.
in the parks. Yeah. The studios, especially, I think they've got 11 operating attractions right now. And, when you're asking people to pay full price for those tickets, 11 attractions is 11 attractions in 9 hours a day. It's a difficult value proposition to make. But if they add in a couple more things, I think it'll be better there.
No, I agree. Totally agree.
And so, speaking of that, you mentioned that the park hours are shortened now. So, starting in early September, Disney's parks will be open now 9 hours a day instead of the current 10. And this follows a move that Universal did, similar thing, right? One hour less. And there are all sorts of interesting ramifications on this. One of them is that Disney had for Epcot that after 4 Epcot pass. Well, now Epcot's only open till 8. Or it will be only open till 8. So they've actually changed the after 4 pass to begin at 2 p.m.
Oh, okay.
Instead of 4.
Good that they recognize that. Okay, good.
But I think the big thing that we saw in terms of passes, though, is there's been we think, a significant uptake in Universal's $165 2-park 1-day pass that's valid through December 24th. So we'd mentioned this on the show a couple of weeks ago, and I thought it was a 1-day ticket where you got to visit 2 parks, and that was it for $165. But then lots of readers sent in a clarification on that, and it's basically an annual pass and through the end of the year. For $165, you get to visit both parks in the same day. And Jim, we've seen attendance much higher than expected at Universal ever since this pass came out and people got wind of it. So it took about a week for the news to come out, but on our scale of 1 to 10, last weekend, Universal was a 9.
Ooh.
And again, some rides aren't operating, things aren't running at capacity, et cetera, but definitely the busiest we've seen the parks since reopening. And I think this pass is responsible for it.
Well, and it's important to point out here that our buddy Matt over at Attractions Magazine pointed out that, yes, that there's this, this wonderful discounted admissions media, but people are still paying full price to park at Universal and $26 a day? Yeah,
that's what parking costs. It's so depending on where you live in Orlando, it could be cheaper to Uber.
Yeah.
The other thing too is Uber gets you dropped off a little bit closer, but I don't mind the parking so much because you can go and then leave whenever you want. So that's not bad.
That's
and
true.
The food and stuff is still full price. But I think it's a phenomenal deal. $165 for September, October, November, most of December, and then what's left of August. So basically 5 months for $165, 2 parks. Amazing. Yeah. The good thing is though is people see value in that, right?
With COVID and people still supposedly reluctant to travel, you are that much more reliant on your Florida locals to come out and pass at that price point.
In fact, we have a bunch of surveys coming up, which we'll talk about, where from both Disney and Universal, where they talk about tickets, pricing, and whether you had intended to visit the parks. So we'll talk about that shortly.
Okay.
All right, Jim, speaking of being in the parks, we mentioned this on last week's show as a teaser. What's up with that big pile of dirt over at the Magic Kingdom parking lot by where the Speedway used to be? It's like 3 stories tall, and you can't miss it because when you're driving out of the Magic Kingdom parking lot, it rises like something out of Monument Valley or the movie E.T. the Extraterrestrial. No, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, right?
Well, it's interesting. If you look close, there's Richard Dreyfuss right there at the base, with a spoon.
Exactly.
Trying to shape it. A lot of work going on in the Magic Kingdom parking lot. They're building a fairly large retention pond to help with drainage issues out there. So again,
the pond is definitely there. You can see it.
Okay. But you have to take into consideration the ridiculously high water table.
Yeah, you dig down like 5 feet, you hit water. I mean,
that's it exactly. Yeah. So to have this sort of soil on Disney property is an incredibly valuable resource. I mean, I remember back in 91, 92, when Disney was beginning the initial work on expanding the then Disney MGM theme park. And so they were in the process of doing the site work for Sunset Boulevard. And what was interesting is they went out there, they cleared the site of all of the flora and the fauna, ripping out the trees and that sort of thing. And then they let the site stand for about 3 and 4 months. And the idea was, okay,
in a subtropical or tropical environment, they just let it sit there. Like,
yes.
What could possibly happen with nature here for the next 3 months?
Well, but again, this is Florida, the land of the sinkhole and all that. And then to watch them then roll in with dump truck after dump truck after dump truck of soil that they then threw on top of the site and then rolled steamrollers up and down to create this firm bed that they then built the street on. And of course, that when you consider what sort of pilings you had to put in to make sure the Tower of Terror was ridiculously secure and that sort of thing. So you're not going to see this pile of soil stay in place forever. It's right now in the sun. It's being cured because, again, it's Florida. Everything is ridiculously damp.
Yep.
And then, yet in the not too distant future, now mind you, again, when you talk about the $900 million worth of projects that are suddenly on pause, you're going to see the soil wander around property. That there's a berm that's been built around the Star Wars Intergalactic Hotel.
Yep.
That is going to need to be loamed, so you can plant greenery so the hotel actually disappears.
Oh, good point. Yeah, because right now they've just got some straw down on it.
Yeah.
And that appeared within a couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah, just enjoy the giant mound while you can, because it's going away.
Okay, all right, fair enough. I thought that they were going to do a really interesting hotel right in the middle of the parking lot, but high enough that you can actually see the park from there. Because again, that land, they're not making any more land around the Magic Kingdom.
No, they're not. No, they're not. And just that it always fascinates me every couple of years to see them return to the site of the Venetian Hotel. And
Jim, there's stuff going on there right now. Like there are construction trucks and test materials. I drive by it like every couple of days just to see what's going on there. Yeah.
If they can ever figure out how to actually build a resort on that, the joke in Imagineering is like, look, just build the Atlantis resort. All right.
Exactly.
And when it sinks, it's like we make people pay extra for the theming.
They should ask the Oriental Land Company to come out, because didn't they build parts of Tokyo Disneyland on reclaimed seabed?
They did. But again, if you watch Leslie Iwerk's Imagineering documentary, remember when they had that earthquake and they showed all of the water suddenly sort of coming up out of the built on the edge of Tokyo Bay, just because of the ground shaking and all that. So they have experience, but I don't know if they have Central Florida experience.
That's true. Good point. All right, Jim, the other thing I wanted to mention from my visits around the theme parks, and this is my hot take of the week, and it's this. I actually like the socially distant lines better than the regular lines for rides now. So I was in Pirates of the Caribbean, and we were in our socially distant line, and it filled the entire plaza. Like when you walk into the Pirates of the Caribbean queue, you're in that open air plaza area, and the queue basically goes left to right as switchbacks all the way until you get to the door of the attraction. And we were in, then I thought, well, God, this is a really long line. But we moved 6 feet every couple of seconds. And so you move farther along every time one person in front of you gets on the ride. So the scenery changes more often for you, and it feels like you're making more progress. And I mention this because I know that some of our listeners are psychologists and economists. And I'm thinking that the current way that Disney's operating here is an excellent experiment on how people perceive waiting in line. So if y'all are interested in this and we can help gathering data for it, let me know. But I'm convinced more people are satisfied with this method of queuing up. The fact that you move faster for the same amount of wait time. I totally think it's a better thing.
Imagineers have been puzzling for like the last 5 years or so with the notion that so many people, when they are in line, are face down in their phone. Well, why are we building this, spending $30 million on the queue if they're not looking up? But now to add the added incentive, if I'm looking at my phone, am I standing on the footprint thing? Just sort of like, all right, from this point forward, we're not painting the ceiling. There's no
exactly. No one looks at the ceiling anymore. Well, the reason why I bring it up too is in Walt Disney World, a lot of the queues, a lot of the lines are undercover because of, it rains in Florida.
Sure. Yep.
But in Disneyland, the queues are outdoors because it never rains in Southern California, right? So if they've got to now use outdoor space and more outdoor space to put people in lines, it constricts the number of people you can have in the park.
Just out ahead of the opening of Galaxy's Edge, they had that Project Stardust where they were moving planters and removing sidewalks.
Well, that's good though, because I mean, it freed up walkways, and so they
did.
just not for the reason that they need it now, right?
Yeah, I guess not. So.
All right, Jim, on to listener questions. So here's one that's unusual. It comes from Ray. It says, so Len, you and Jim know everything. There's a very large tree in the Africa outpost at Epcot. It has a waxy leaf like a ficus house tree, and my personality. It's huge and towers over the location. What type of tree is it, and how long has it been there? It is by far one of my favorite trees. Thanks, and I love your podcast. Okay, so the only reason I'm answering this is because I wanted to know more about how Ray maintains a list of his favorite trees. So it sounds like the Jungle Cruise joke. I like to point out some of my favorite plants. That one.
There we go.
Anyway, I went over to Epcot yesterday, and sure enough, there's a huge tree with waxy leaves over at the refreshment outpost where the Africa Pavilion would have been if it was built. So I grabbed a couple of the leaves, and I used an app called Leaf Snap to identify it, and it turns out it is indeed a kind of ficus. So good job, Ray. It's a Ficus elastica, a rubber tree. And I note that they can grow to 200 feet tall, though most commonly they're about 100 to 130 feet tall. And they're called a rubber tree because their sap used to be used to make rubber. So that's the name. Also, it's usually found in Asia, not Africa, which is a little not in character for the location. Close enough, as far as I'm concerned.
I'm genuinely impressed because I literally just saw Leaf Snap like last week. They were demoing, somebody was going through, I want to say, a flower garden in Central Park and identifying flowers that way. So good.
Yep.
Len, working the cutting edge here. Woo-hoo, you know.
Yes. I also stopped in for a hot dog while I was there because I was hungry. So,
well, okay.
All right. Here's a note from Patrick. He writes, during this morning's workout, I was thinking of Len's analysis of where and when John lives in Carousel of Progress. So this was last week's show, folks, if you haven't listened to it. I agree with your conclusions and I'm looking forward to future installments. I think given the time lapses between the eras, that Occam's razor's explanation will ultimately be that who we know as John is actually a time-traveling narrator unstuck a la Billy Pilgrim. This is most clearly evidenced by his slow age progression over the eras. Also, John has some degree of omniscience as to the current news and larger trends in those eras and others, and he's aware of and interacts with the audiences over time. So John clearly has access to the fourth dimension because he consistently breaks the fourth wall. All right, lots to unpack here. So Occam's razor is the idea that the simplest explanation is usually correct. And Patrick is right in that the entire family doesn't seem to age at all. The changes in their appearance could be just them trying to blend in to whatever era they find themselves in. So maybe General Electric has perfected time travel, and this is their way of easing us into that reality. So for that matter, they could be vampires, which would go a long way towards explaining what happens to that kid, helping Sarah with the wash in Act 1. Jim?
I'm sorry. This immediately makes me think that someone needs to reach out to Taika Waititi, and the very next redo of Carousel of Progress should feature the cast of What We Do in the Shadows.
That was a hysterical premise, actually. All right.
Yes,
so
yes.
The reason I mention this, Jim, is Patrick's idea that we don't know everything there is to know about John. Has Disney ever done a thrill ride based on the idea of an unreliable narrator?
Doesn't come to mind.
I don't think they have. But imagine Tower of Terror, where it's not called Tower of Terror. It's called the Hollywood Hotel Tour. And the guide plays it straight until the last few seconds before the drops. And then the guide turns out to be one of the ghosts.
You see, this I love.
I mention this because we know, you and I both know that there are some creative people in Burbank who listen to the show. This idea is on the house, folks. There you go. Okay. Yeah, but an unreliable narrator as the premise for a ride. I don't think it's been done.
No, that's cool. That's definitely an idea worth pursuing.
All right, on to some surveys. So a bunch of people have sent in new surveys from both Disney and Universal. Here's one from Universal, and it's interesting because it's asking about Disney. So here's the question from Universal. Thinking about your most recent visit to Walt Disney World, which of the following reasons describe why you visited Walt Disney World at this time? Please check all that apply. So one was we had a good deal on tickets. We were waiting for a new ride or attraction to open. There was a special event we wanted to attend. It was the best fit for our schedule. We were hoping for good weather. We were hoping it would be less crowded, or none of the above. So those answers are interesting because the first one that mentions a good deal on tickets relates to the Flex Pass ticket that Florida residents just got from Disney. We're going to talk about that in the next survey. And then special event that we wanted to attend could mean food and garden.
Okay.
But the next question that Universal asks is, when do you next plan to visit Walt Disney World? 0 to 6 months, 7 to 12 months, 12 to 18 months, 19 months or more from now, or I don't plan to visit again. The third question, and this is, you'll see this question pop up again. If the ticket you actually purchased had not been available, what ticket would you have purchased instead? So what was your second choice ticket? So I got this because I bought a Universal annual pass. So the question to me was then, what would I have bought if I wouldn't have bought an annual pass? And it lists everything from the one-day tickets to the multi-day or multi-park, 1 day and 2 day tickets, all the way down. And so why would they want to know about that, Jim? Like, what was my second choice ticket?
In the case of both Universal and Disney, they are staring down the barrel of what happens after Labor Day. I mean, a number of Florida schools started going back in and then closing down. In fact, you've mentioned on earlier shows about the Magic Kingdom you feel had like a artificial ceiling set of like 9,000 people, and there were days when there were only 4,000 people in the park.
Oh, yeah.
And that's Summerland. That's when people were supposedly free to travel. So after Labor Day, when the kids are back in school and everyone's back to work, this situation gets that much desperate. So what would seal the deal here? What would make you come?
You mentioned that. There are a bunch of questions that coming up in the surveys we're going to talk about where I think that's the intent of the questions.
Okay.
In fact, Max, one of our listeners, sent in a survey he got from Disney after purchasing one of the new 2-day Flex tickets. So the first interesting question in the survey is, what are the top reasons you decided to purchase the 2-day Disney Magic Flex ticket to visit Walt Disney World between July 22nd and September 30th? And then it says, please select up to 3. Friends and family wanted to go to experience a limited time or seasonal event. The promotional offer or discount was a good value. To see new attractions, the ticket duration. Health and safety measures were appropriate, in my opinion. To celebrate a special occasion, to experience a specific attraction, to see a favorite character. I needed an escape from the daily routine. Yeah, you and me both, brother. Limited crowds, Jim.
Yeah.
And then to enjoy the Walt Disney World atmosphere. So the interesting thing is, we know from Disney's earnings call back on the 3rd that the word started getting out that no one was in Walt Disney World, right? The crowds were really, really low. And now Disney's surveying about it to see, has hearing about limited crowds, along with the health and safety measures that we're taking, plus this ticket discount, is that enough to get you back in the parks? And that's really interesting.
I agree.
Yeah. So the next question is, and we just talked about this for Universal, if the 2-day Disney Magic Flex ticket wasn't available, what type of ticket would you have bought? So a 1-day ticket, a 2-day ticket, the 3-day version of the Magic Flex ticket, the 4-day version of the Magic Flex ticket, a 5-day or longer ticket, or something else, or I wouldn't have purchased a ticket. So again, just like Universal, they're saying, if this wasn't available, what was your next bet? And I think in Disney's case, they're saying, okay, what if we don't offer the 2-day ticket? Because historically, Disney's not offered a discount on 2-day admissions. If you look in earlier this year, they definitely did the 3 and 4-day Flex tickets, but they didn't do the 2-day. So I think Disney's looking here to see how many 3-day tickets they're cannibalizing by doing the 2-day tickets.
That certainly makes sense. But again, this is a Florida resident only offer, right?
Right, yeah, Florida residents only. Although, I mean, there's no technical reason why it couldn't be, right? Again, I think Disney doesn't want to, no theme park wants to discount their regular base tickets, especially for out-of-state people. So I think it would be very unusual for Disney to do that. Okay. Here's the next question, though, and it relates to the timing of the purchase. And the question is, how much time elapsed between when you learned about the Disney Magic Flex ticket and when you decided to purchase the ticket? And so the options are, I did it in the same week, I did it about a week after, about a month after, or a few months after. And Max here answered, I got it the same week, which is, I think, exactly what Disney wants to hear.
Oh, no, absolutely.
On that. There were a couple of other interesting questions, and I won't go through all the options, but the questions were, how many tickets did you buy? Did you plan on staying in Walt Disney World when you used the tickets? were you planning to visit Walt Disney World before you learned about these tickets? So that's the incremental sales that they got. So if you weren't planning to visit before you learned about the tickets, but then you heard about the tickets and you're like, you know what, that's enough for me. I'm going. That's it. And in fact, the next question after that is, if the tickets weren't available, would you still have made the trip? There, and then the two other questions were you expecting Disney to offer discounted tickets? And before purchasing the ticket, how did you feel about visiting the parks during the pandemic?
Wow, two strong ones for the closer there.
And
wow.
So then the absolute last question is, and this one's kind of complicated, so bear with me, folks. But it's a question with 100 points that you have to allocate as follows. What factors had the most influence in your decision to visit a Walt Disney World theme park between July 22nd and September 30th? So basically during the Flex ticket deals. So you're given 100 points, and you have to allocate all 100 points to the following 7 things: limited crowds, the promotional offer or discount, new health or safety procedures, the travel dates were convenient to my schedule, I missed being immersed in the Disney magic, I needed an escape from the daily routine, or none of the above. So that's Disney trying to figure out, I mean, this is my take on it. This is Disney trying to figure out the marketing message to give, right? So if they get 1,000 of these surveys and the thing with the most points is limited crowds, you're going to start to see shots of Main Street with nobody on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is the second time we've seen this I needed an escape from the daily routine message pop up.
Right.
How many of us trapped at home working who just, it's like, I got to do something different. So
Well, that's why I think that September and October might not be as slow as Disney's thinking, because as more kids go virtual for the fall semester, what's to stop anyone from traveling? Like, we're all working from home anyway. What's to stop us from just working in a Disney hotel for a few hours?
Really interesting idea. I had not. No, I love when you think around corners. Okay.
Yeah. Like, I mean, what's to stop us from just coming down on a random Tuesday, right? I mean, okay, so the kid's got to be, in school from, 10 to 3. We can still go to Animal Kingdom from 8 to 9, and we can still go to, pretty much every other park after 3.
And I hate to say that. That's a wonderful incentive to finish your homework.
Yeah, exactly. It says you have to be online. It doesn't say you can't be online at the pool. Could you imagine
Yes.
a third grader like under a beach umbrella with a pina colada in their Zoom school meeting with sunglasses and the hat on? Like, yeah. Keep talking about trigonometry. Go ahead. What was that thing you said about Pythagorean theorem? Yeah, and then drinking on the straw. I'm telling you, I think we're going to see more people traveling. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good way to get beaten up once, we actually get back to school and out in the playground.
Oh, yeah, totally. All right. The next thing I want to do is there was a survey sent in about Aulani. And as we all know, Aulani's been closed for months, right? And it's one of those things where even if Disney wanted to reopen, the state of Hawaii has imposed pretty onerous quarantines on people coming in, and understandably so, right? You have to show a negative PCR COVID-19 test within 72 hours of arrival. Otherwise, you're in a 14-day quarantine, and they're actually very, very serious about it. Like they're checking on you, can't go out, and they send people around to make sure that you're actually quarantined. So anyway, our listener Lucy sent in this survey, and it got some interesting questions. The first question is, how involved do you personally get in the following types of internet-related activities? And the first one is online fan sites serving people who are interested in specific types of vacations or vacation destinations. So do you visit fan sites for specific locations? And the answers are, I post or write comments on these sites. I visit these sites and write or answer polls, but never post or write comments. I visit these sites and browse only. I've heard of these sites, but never visited, or I've never heard of these websites. So what's that, Jim?
We've talked about messaging earlier in today's show. And the notion is, okay, so where are you getting your information? What information?
That's what this is. Yeah.
Which channels are you going to, so to speak? And then it becomes a question, well, if if that's where they go for info, how do we control the narrative?
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I think too. Do we put ads on these sites? Do we do partnerships with them? What? Because the next question is, how involved do you personally get in online social networking sites such as Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter? So sort of the same thing. So then the next set of questions deal with changes to Alani reservations. So Lucy had an Alani reservation. The question is, which best describes the change you made to your most recent Alani resort reservation? I canceled it and made an existing reservation for later. I moved it. I modified the room, number of guests, or number of days only, or other. So in this particular case, I think Lucy canceled hers and then made another one. What best describes why you canceled or moved your earlier or original Alani reservations? And the first thing on the list is travel restrictions were instituted for Hawaii. So Disney's obviously knows what they're looking for there. Then it was announced that Alani would be closed during my original reservation period. The primary reason for my visit was canceled, e.g. a show or event was canceled. I was concerned about being in crowds or large groups of people. I was concerned about flying. Travel restrictions were instituted where I live. My transportation options were limited or canceled. I feared for my personal safety or security. There were financial concerns, or there were concerns about exposure to the illness. So Disney again is trying to figure out why you canceled, and then I guess the next set of questions would be, what's going to make you come back, right?
Yeah.
So the next one is, assume the following. Assume that stay-at-home restrictions have been lifted and you're able to travel. And assume there are no restrictions in Hawaii that prevent you from traveling to the area. And assume that flights are available from your home to Hawaii and the pricing is comparable to prior trends, and that travel providers and Hawaii attractions, including Alani, will have implemented a new set of health and safety measures, such as all employees and customers wearing face coverings, disinfecting, and so on. So assuming all of that, which best describes your intentions to keep your currently planned Alani resort reservation for, and it's the date in the future that you have it. I'm fully committed. I will definitely keep my reservation. I'm somewhat committed. I'm not very committed. I am not at all committed. We will definitely cancel our currently planned reservation. So this is Disney trying to figure out for the future if things get somewhat better. They're not back to normal, right? Because they didn't mention having a vaccine, right? But assuming Hawaii is open, how committed are you to coming? So this is Disney trying to project out their future bookings, I think.
If you're traveling to Alani, that's a commitment. I mean, that's...
Oh, yeah. I mean, you're not going there for 2 days. Yeah, you're going there for a week.
Yeah, just the procedure to travel there. Even if you're leaving from LA, that's what, 6-hour flight?
Yeah, from the East Coast, you can get direct flights, but they're somewhere between 9 and 11 hours, depending on how fast the plane can go.
Yeah.
Woo! Yeah. I've done it once. Never again. Yeah.
Okay.
No. The next set of questions ask whether you'd still be committed if the following things were not available. So, for example, if the spa wasn't available, or the luau, or valet parking, or the kids club, or no table service restaurants, or no buffets, or no character dining, would you still be committed? So same set of options. And on that one, I think Lucy said she would not be very committed to a reservation, if that's the case.
You and I were talking about, is it really a Disney theme park without a daily parade or without fireworks? And then you were talking about how much you enjoyed, the character cavalcades that go through the parks. And,
the cavalcades for me are perfectly reasonable substitutes for the parades. I still miss the fireworks. But I think the fireworks thing at this point, Jim, is cost. Because I think I read somewhere that Disney says they spend like $250,000 a day on fireworks, which is entirely believable. And I mean, frankly, with the attendance that they're getting, that's a lot of money they don't need to spend.
So that's a $250,000 spread over 4 parks that, that they each of the shows.
$250,000, a couple $1 million a day. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it starts that up after a while. So.
Yeah. $250K here, $250K there. It all starts to add up. The last question on Lucy's survey, the last set of questions were, what would make you feel more comfortable in visiting Alani? So it's things like guests required to wear masks at all times, unless dining, actively using resort water features, or sitting in a pool and beach chair. Digital options to check into resort rooms without visiting the front desk, or flexible cancellation or change policy. Increased number of hand sanitizing stations, employees being required to wear masks or cloth face masks, employee screening for temperatures, physical distancing, other, or the last option is nothing would make me more or less likely to keep my currently booked Alani resort reservation. So there's that.
so many of these policies are already implemented at Walt Disney World.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah.
So they're tested. So it's a question of, okay, we know how to do these. Would these help? Would these get you on a plane? So
that's why I think there's so many resorts in Hawaii that from all the major brands that they're all looking at what they're learning on the continental U.S. and seeing what would fly in Hawaii. The good thing is that Hawaii, being a beach resort, there's more open. People are going to be outside more, so you might be able to you might be a little bit more flexible around things like face masks, especially around pools, and that would just come more naturally, just being in that environment versus a theme park. I'm telling you, if I could find a good deal on points, I would totally go to Aulani. Mm-hmm. It's the 11 hours on a plane. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess start the Mai Tais at the terminal and just.
Anyway. All right, folks, when we come back, Jim tells us the story of Animal Kingdom's struggles to come up with a workable nighttime entertainment program. We'll be right back.
This podcast is brought to you by Carvana. Carvana lets you buy your next car on your terms. Explore a massive inventory online, filter for what matters, and find your perfect match. Then choose delivery to your home or pick it up at one of Carvana's iconic car vending machines. Every car also comes with a 7-day money-back guarantee, so you can make sure it's the right fit. Buy your car on Carvana. Delivery or pickup fees may apply. Limitations and exclusions may apply. See our 7-day return policy at Carvana.com.
Carvana.
Breathe deep. Imagine your legs more limber in Duluth Trading Double Flex Denim. Envision euphorically squatting for that can of suds, bending for your toolbox in a state of bliss, lunging for your laser level on a whole new level. Relax and allow the flex to fill you with ability. Find your inner flex in Double Flex Denim only at Duluth Trading.
All right, Jim, we heard a couple weeks ago that Disney was retiring the Rivers of Light nighttime spectacular permanently and for good. And we had lamented this because it was the original idea for Rivers of Light. We thought, I think both of us thought, was a really well-conceived idea that just execution-wise didn't happen. But this isn't the first time that Disney's looked at nighttime entertainment for the park and not been able to pull it off, right?
If you go to a Disney theme park and then no fireworks, does it feel like you've actually had the Disney theme park experience that we've know and love?
Right.
And that was the thing, almost from the get-go with Animal Kingdom. When they announced the park in June of 95, the idea was a different species of theme park. But it was hugely expensive right from the get-go. I mean, it was because of the need for fences and moats and barns back of house. First of all, it was the largest theme park Disney had ever built up until that time, 580 acres. That's 5 times the size of the Magic Kingdom. But so much of the money had to be plowed into things that guests didn't see in the kind of tradition of a Disney theme park. But they thought they'd be able to build the thing for $600 to $800 million. They ended up spending over $1 billion on this thing. So
wow.
It opens April of 1998. Right out at the bat, the attraction that's the most popular is Kilimanjaro Safari. 18-minute long journey through a simulated African savanna of 110 acres. Amazing setup of animals. But the downside is as soon as the sun started to go down, this became less and less a satisfying experience. And a lot of that was because during the 18 months prior to the park opening, the animal handlers had taught the animals, it's like, okay, you see the sun going down. It's time to come back to the barn so we can do a health check, we can count heads, and we can feed you.
Okay.
There were animals that then bedded down for the night in the barn. And the small group of animals that would then go back out to the savannah.
Right. All right. So one immediate problem is once the winter equinox happens, it gets dark at 4:30.
Yeah, and that's it exactly. And in fact, and headed into the hugely lucrative holiday season of the Walt Disney World, all of the other parks are extending their hours and, putting on special holiday programming. And here's Animal Kingdom, where again, it's 4:30 in the afternoon. So they try for that one season, holiday of 1998, a nighttime safari.
Really?
And
So the idea goes back more than 20 years. I didn't know that.
oh yeah. Ooh. And now, mind you, again, it's the first year of operation, Len. To be honest, there's not a lot of money. So they kind of meatball what they do, because they have to do the work around fully through 3/4. I've heard as high as 5/6 of the animals. They're again at dusk they're back at the barns.
Right.
So you now have to sort of create the illusion that there are animals out there.
So it's like Steve the intern rustling branches in the in the front.
You are so close, actually.
Joe Rohde's first job was to shake trees on the safari.
One of the things they did is they literally created this soundscape. They went in and would drop speakers. So you would hear animals out rustling in the brush. You couldn't see them, but you could hear them. And then they did things where they went out and they put eye-shaped reflectors at varying different heights in the attraction. And so the idea is, as the headlights of the safari vehicle would come around, sort of, you see that flash of light that said, "There's an animal over there in the dark."
So like I can picture them gluing these reflective eyes on like a football and just putting it out behind a plant, some sort of hedgehog, I think.
The toughest part of it is that again, there were animals that were actually on display in these things, and they would come in and they'd have like the opaki eating the reflective or chewing on the thing that was up high, because it's like, oh, is this enrichment? And it's like, no, reflector tape. But then you get to things like there's the 6-acre elephant compound, and the elephants every night, back in the barn, they're getting their food. And so when you drive through the elephant compound, it's a huge part of the, so what they wound up doing is they actually hired an African dance troupe who every night, after dusk and after they made, all right, the elephants are locked up, right? Okay.
You're sure, right? You checked the door?
Yeah, there we go. They'd build a bonfire, and then these guys would dance around the bonfire. So you'd have
where the elephants are.
Yeah, now mind you, I am hoping they cleaned up the spot that they actually had them dancing around.
Why are they not doing that now? That's a great idea.
These are people who've been to the other Disney theme parks. And so somebody who's been on the Jungle Cruise and seen the victorious hunting party, they've just killed the lion, and so there they are dancing around the thing. And it was one of these things where it's like, these are actual people dancing in front of an actual bonfire. And the comment they got from guests is like, yeah, you recycled that stupid scene from the Jungle Cruise. It's just sort of like...
It's why we can't have nice things, Jim. It's why we can't have nice things.
Yeah, so the guest surveys in January of 1999 were just appalling. People complained about, they didn't see any real animals. They felt that it wasn't, it wasn't up to Disney standards. It wasn't a good value. And the Imagineers are like, we can fix this. We'll need to buy another set of animals that we then train to go out onto the savannah at night. We'll need to set up some sort of a lighting system. And they literally meatballed the lighting. They rolled in, like those temporary traffic instruction at night, those sorts of lights. And it's just sort of like, with light that bright, animals aren't going to want to hang out next to, and especially with the generator.
With the generator running, exactly, yeah.
So it's like, we'd need to buy specialized lights. We'd need to create feeders and enrichment stations that were deliberately closer to the ride vehicle path. We have to train the animals, A, to go there, and B, not get run over. And the pushback from Disney managers is like, we are less than 9 months open at this park. We have to concentrate on increasing capacity, and so we can't be adding additional bells and whistles to an attraction that's already open. And in fact, they immediately pivoted to finish Kali River Rapids and the Maharaja Jungle Trek, which opened March of that same year. But it's now becomes kind of a vicious circle, because the word gets out that animals, because of the Central Florida heat, are most active in the morning. So if you really want to see a lot of animals, you need to get to Disney's Animal Kingdom early in the morning. But that then, with the limited number of attractions that are open at the park.
Yeah, you're done by 1 p.m.
Yeah, and when you have shops and restaurants that are now standing open for the 4 and 5 hours that the park remains to be open and they're empty, that really hurts your financials. You're not making your numbers, which is why, for example, Beastly Kingdom, which, remember, they were hyping, it's like, hey, look at as you come in the entrance, see the dragon skull, that land's coming. The park was not meeting its financial projections. Beastly Kingdom basically fell off the table, and that's how we get Chester and Hester's Dinorama in 2002 or thereabouts. I mean, it solved the capacity problem or at least helped the hourly ride capacity at a much lower price point. But then it's like, okay, so how do we, as you said, people are leaving at 1. Well, how do we mitigate that? Well, what if we had a 3 o'clock parade?
Yep.
So that's where Mickey's Jammin' Jungle show comes from?
Mickey's Jammin' Jungle Parade, Laurel's favorite parade.
Was it really? Okay.
By a wide margin, like not even close.
All right. But now I have to ask, was that because she was so ridiculously close to the parade vehicles? Because, of course, there was no sidewalk.
I think she really liked the music and she liked the costuming. And yeah, the fact that if you stretch your legs out, actually get run over by one of the parade floats, I think added to the allure of the parade for her.
Wow. Okay. Lady who likes to live on the edge. But on the exact same day that Mickey's Jammin' Jungle Parade opens at Animal Kingdom, Tapestry of Nations opens at Epcot. And if you're somebody who's paying to fly down to Florida to stay at Disney World, what parade looks like a better return on your investment? I mean, Mickey's Jammin' Jungle, because, the roads were deliberately so narrow and so textured to create, the illusion that you're really in Asia, you're really in Africa. They couldn't do the standard Disney parade floats. There were a lot of retrofitted small trucks and pargos.
Yep. But I think it was a more intimate parade. You were right there.
No, absolutely. But the very fact that it was, there were a lot of places in the park that it was just difficult to watch it from.
Yeah, you had to be in the middle of Discovery Island by the Tree of Life. That was the most space. Yeah.
And if, God help you, if you were, that bridge going in and out of Asia,
so it's exactly what I was thinking. Like you and the parade float could both not be on that bridge at the same time.
It was not a happy situation. And to be honest, the problem was that all Mickey's Jamming Jungle Parade did is they moved the exit point of the park from 1 o'clock to 3:30.
Still 2.5 hours. Yeah. But people aren't staying for dinner is the problem, right? So if you're Rainforest Cafe and you're counting on a breakfast, lunch, and dinner crowd and you're not getting the dinner crowd, that's problematic.
Yep. So that opens October of 99. We then get the Chester and Hester stuff opening. I want to say Triceratops Spins opens in March of 2002. April of 2002, we get the Primeval Whirl, which, again, just like...
Closed a couple months ago, yeah.
Yeah, that also closed. But again, same thing. They're looking at it, and even with these attractions being able to run right up until, park close, they're really not moving the needle. And so it's like, okay, what do we do here? How do we turn this around? October of 2003, Wishes, a magical gathering of Disney dreams, opens at the Magic Kingdom and is immediately hailed as, oh my God,
it's the modern era of Disney nighttime spectaculars. I mean, that was the start of it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the notion that you can finally use, fireworks to tell a story in the sky.
Yep.
And Wishes is Steve Davidson baby. And at that point, Steve's on a real roll. I mean, December of 97, he was the guy who, got Small World Holiday built. February 2000, we get Believe There's Magic in the Stars. That's Disneyland's second fireworks show ever.
Wow.
And the replacement of Fantasy in the Sky that had been in the park there since 65, but, immediately embraced. And then October 2001, Haunted Mansion Holiday. And then, of course, October of 2003, we get Wishes.
That's quite a streak. I mean, that's four really good things in 6 years for Steve.
Yeah, and
wow.
the interesting thing is that Disney recognized what a talent he was at that point. So Ann Hamburger, who was the then vice president in charge of Disney Creative Entertainment, she asked Steve to literally join Imagineering as the creative director of parades and shows worldwide. So
Wow.
it's like, you're going to be our Ubermeister of shows and parades. But the very first project that gets dropped in Steve's lap is like, you have to create a piece of entertainment that will keep guests in Disney's Animal Kingdom right up till park close. But almost immediately, Steve's hands are tied behind his back because you can't do a fireworks show in Disney's Animal Kingdom, not without handing Quaaludes out to, the gorillas or, that just...
Which apparently some groups frown upon to this day, Jim.
I don't understand. And then, look, there's no decades-old beloved attraction like Small World or Haunted Mansion, that you can then retheme around the holidays or that sort of thing. So Steve really has to put his thinking cap on. And what does he come up with? We'll talk about that on the next Disney Dish.
Ooh, great cliffhanger, Jim.
There we go.
All right, folks, that's going to do it for the Disney Dish show today. Please head on over to disneydish.bandcamp.com, where you'll find exclusive shows never before heard on iTunes. On next week's regular show, we'll finish this story of how we got to the Animal Kingdom's Rivers of Light. You can find more of Jim at jimhillmedia.com and more of me at touringplans.com. We're produced fabulously by Aaron Adams, who'll be pouring early samples of his Beaujolais Nouveau on Saturday, September 30th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Black Star Farms Estate and Wine Tour, just off State Road 22 in beautiful Suttons Bay, Michigan. While Aaron's doing that, please go onto iTunes and rate our show and tell us what you'd like to hear next. For Jim, this is Len. We will see you on the next show.